Our core beliefs can't just be an activity we do once. It has to be a choice on how we choose to show up in life, how we choose to treat other people, whether or not they ever choose to change. And if they don't choose to change, bring in those badass boundaries. You don't have to put yourself in the room where people don't treat you the way that you want to be treated. But you have to stop thinking that the answer is to get everybody else to change and instead work on you. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica, and today we're talking about how I actually got through divorce without losing my mind. Not a checklist, not a step-by-step, something deeper. It was the thing that drove every decision I made when I literally had no idea what the right answer was. I had no idea how to get through divorce because I had never done it before. And this holds true in any large transformation, shifting of a job, adding a baby to the family. When something new and big shows up in your world, most times you've never experienced it before. You haven't walked this path. To be honest, you just don't know what you're doing until you start to make your way through it. Nobody hands you a manual. You don't get your baby from the hospital and they're like, here's the book. Here's when you feed them. Here's when you do all these things. I remember getting in the car and having that moment that, holy shit, that's ours. We're now responsible for that tiny little thing, which felt so different than all of the years babysitting for other people's babies. When you're solely responsible for understanding how I need to get through something, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so when nobody tells you what to do, what happens when you're triggered at 11 p.m. by a text from your ex? Your emotions take over. We act a little crazy. Or how about when you're so angry that you want to retaliate? How about when you just have to step into it and send off all the zingers in a text message or get into an argument on the phone? Or how about when you genuinely cannot see how you're going to get through this? So what I found, what actually worked, was having a set of core values that I could come back to every single time I had to make a decision. Even when my system was fired up, even when I wanted to be right more than I wanted to be free. Because we don't have a crystal ball. Just because your friends did it one way doesn't mean that you're going to do it the same way. We all navigate it a little bit different. And that comes down to the fact that we have these varying core values. But when it comes to divorce or big shifts in life, every decision feels like it has high stakes. The lawyers, the kids, the money, the communication with your ex. And to be honest, some of them do. When you're entering in a new legal binding document, that is high stakes. You don't want to be making a rash decision, a reactive decision on something that can affect you until your kids turn 18. And when your nervous system is triggered, you literally cannot think clearly. It is not within your wheelhouse to turn the logical brain back on when that reptilian brain, the core of our brain, gets turned on, the nervous system response. You're going to react instead of respond. There's no ability to take the pause. There's no ability to think logically. Your body is pushing you to react to create safety or preservation for you. So this is where you need something to come back to that's bigger than the moment you're in. It's like your anchor. It's where we continue to come back to. And that's exactly what core values give you. They are a compass when everything feels like chaos. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of core values before. Maybe you've even done some exercises. I remember there were a couple times in my corporate career. In fact, I wrote activities to help people find their core values. And the thing I want to point out is that it too is not a one and done. It is an evolution until you really get to the ones that matter. Because what most people get wrong about core values is they try and pick them out of thin air. Oh, I value honesty. I value loyalty. Yes, I value honesty. Cheating in my relationship, hiding the truth, when asked direct questions, not giving a direct answer. Oh, I value honesty. But I would tell you that when it comes down to like my core three, it's not in my core three. It's a boundary. It's an action and a behavior that I expect. And if it is not there, I remove myself from the equation. But it's a little different than a core value. So then when we're just grasping at core values, because these things are important, honesty, loyalty, those are very important to me. But if I didn't get deeper into it, you'll start to wonder why those values don't actually drive your decisions when things get hard. And the reason is that core values have to come from something deeper. They have to come from what you actually believe to be true about the world. And your core beliefs are what give your core values their power. So let me show you what I mean. So one of my core beliefs, I believe we are all humans having a human experience. What does that mean? We all make mistakes. We all try our best, but sometimes fail. And we are all just trying to get through this lifetime to find our worthiness, to understand our value, and to know that we matter. So that belief leads me to my core value of extending grace. We're humans having a human experience. Every time somebody does something that maybe irritates me or isn't the way that I would do it, human having a human experience, they're just trying to find their way through. So that brought me to realizing that one of my deepest core values is extending grace to myself, to my ex, to everyone in the mess of divorce. And not because they deserved it, but because it's what I do. Because I deserve to extend grace, because I choose to not stay in a state of being angry and resentful and pissed off. A second core belief of mine is that I believe my happiness can be unconditional. That means that my happiness should not be reliant on what anyone else does to me or for me. Can it help it? Yes. Can it make it more challenging? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it is my choice on how I choose to see things or how I want to operate. So when I believe that my happiness can be unconditional, that belief leads me to my core value of love. So I choose love as my operating system. I actually used to call it my superpower, even when the situation doesn't feel loving. It means that when things get icky and sticky and hard and frustrating, I can look at this core value of love and say, okay, am I operating in a loving way? And if the answer is no, I can choose how to shift my behaviors. Now, my last core belief, I believe that we can all win and thrive. So the core value that it ties into is my belief in abundance. I believe that there is enough for all. I do not believe that when we have one pie at the table, there are only 8 slices. As more people come, I believe the pie gets bigger. I believe the entire world is expanding, which is where it comes into, like, I believe that when we're trying to negotiate or figure out what the agreements need to look like, I don't believe it's a me versus you. That is a lack of abundance mindset. I believe we can both win. Might not look exactly like we wanted, but I believe that there is a way that we can both thrive in the experience. There is enough. There is enough for everyone. It is never me versus you because it's not a zero-sum game. So these 3 core values, grace, love, and abundance, I challenge myself to live by those every single day. And they weren't the first set of core values that I came across. I've had a lot of experience helping people, men and women, find their core beliefs, and it's always a work in progress. You have to refine them over time. You know, when you start, I want you to ask yourself, what do I believe is true about people? So after you listen to today's episode, I want you to reflect on that for a little bit. Like, what do you really believe is true about people, about life, about how the world works? And maybe if you're sitting in a place where things have not been working in your favor, those beliefs might be a little jaded right now. And if that's the truth and that's the reality, then I want to ask yourself, how do you wish the world worked? What do you wish was true about people? Because what we see in front of us is the reality of the experiences and the beliefs that we've carried and we've held. And we get to see more of it. It's the way the world magnet works. What I believe, I see more of. So if I want to see something different, I've got to believe something different. And when I start to shift and rewire the thoughts in my mind, then I can find the proof of it in front of me. So some core values are easier to find than others, and that's okay. In fact, ideally, you want to get down to like 3 to 5, but maybe your first list starts with 10. And when we're looking at core values, some of them seem very similar. They kind of can get lumped in, and that's where When I finally landed on grace, I realized that a lot of the much smaller values that were important to me all rolled up into this umbrella of extending grace. So, how do you figure out what your actual core values are? So, after you've pondered on how do I want the world to operate? What do I want to be true about people? I want you to journal that out. What do I believe about how people deserve to be treated? What do I believe about my own happiness? And what do I believe is possible for my life after divorce or after this big transition? Because your values will live in the answer to those questions. And then what I want you to do is I want you to do a quick little Google search, because everybody and their mother has created a printout page of core values. And I want you to take that printout page and I want you to go through it the first time and read the values and highlight all the ones that are important to you. I agree with that one, and I agree with that one, and I agree with that one. And you're probably, if there's 100 core values on this list, you're probably going to come up with like 20 to 30. And then it's where it gets interesting, because the harder task is not to find the beliefs that resonate with you. It's to find your core, the 3 that you absolutely cannot live without, the 3 that if the other ones really had to come push to shove, you would choose these 3 over everything else. So go back through all the ones you highlighted. And now I want you to really look at 2 at a time, A versus B. Which one of those 2 is more important to you? Continue to refine down that list. And maybe because this is the first time you're doing this activity, maybe you get to 10. And I'm okay with that. I want you to sit with those 10. I want you to write them on a piece of paper. I want you to post them maybe on your refrigerator or on your bathroom mirror or somewhere that you can see them every day. I want you to use them as your guidance. Am I operating from these today? And the more you start to shift your lens to see those core values and the behaviors that you share with others, the more you can start to reprioritize that list again, sifting and sorting, moving things up on the priority list or maybe a little bit down. Because once you have your core values, whether you get to your 3 or you're at your 10 value list, here's how you actually use them. In every decision you have to make, you don't know. You don't know what the right answer is on the other side, because divorce is full of them. Do I react to this text? Do I not? Do I enforce this rule in the divorce decree or do I not? Do I go speak to the school about this topic around my child or do I not? Do I trust that this is part of the process or is there a problem? All of these new questions are popping up. And so every time you have to make one of these decisions, you're going to run it through one lens. Does this decision reflect how I want to be treated and how I want to treat others? Because that's what core values really are. They're not just feel-good words on a vision board. They're a standard you set for how you move through the world in both directions, how you expect to be treated and how you commit to treating everyone else, including your ex, even when he's being a nightmare. That part was hard. And I think that this is one of the biggest shifts. When I realized what those core values are, like this is how I want to be treated. I want to be extended grace because guess what? I made some mistakes. I am fiery and I react and some things came out of my mouth that I wish hadn't. And not only to my ex, but to coworkers, to friends, to family. I wanted those people to extend me grace, to understand that right now I was struggling. I wanted people to treat me with love. I wanted them to accept me for who I am. And then I wanted there to be enough for all of us. And so when it went to what do I want to say or how do I want to treat my ex, I had to say, is this how I'd want him to treat me? And if the answer was no, I shifted my behavior first. We spend a lot of time demanding that everybody else show up and treat us differently. And the fastest way to create change is you shift the momentum first. And again, there's no guarantee your ex will ever change, but you change and you operate from a heart-led space. And that feels different in your world. And there's one other question I want you to ask yourself every time you're about to make a decision in your divorce. That one's a little harder. Am I doing this because I want to be right? Or am I doing it because it's truly the right answer for everyone involved? Those are very different motivations, and they lead to very different outcomes. Core values are not enough on their own. Knowing what you value, that really is the woo. That's the energetic side. What's the feeling? What's the emotion? What's the woo that I value? But what drives the bus is your boundaries, your actions, the movement that you take, what you do. Because you can say you have a value of grace all day long, but if you have no idea where your limits are, if you can't say no, if you keep showing up for people who aren't showing up for you, your values are just pretty words. You're not protecting yourself. So boundaries are how your values become real. They're the do part of the equation. The woo, I got clear on how I want to feel, on how I want to interact with people, on the vibe or the frequency I'm on. But now I need some really good boundaries to bring those actions to life. It's how you take what you believe and turn it into how you actually live. Your core values tell you who you want to be. Your boundaries protect that person so they can become them. I have one really strong memory that stands out to me when it comes to core values and boundaries. So how I choose to see things and how I choose to take action on it. And that was pickup and drop-offs. My son and I had done some work in our townhouse. We sat down and we wrote our core values of our house. What do we believe in? Well, we believe we treat each other with love. And what does that mean? We don't hit. We don't yell. We don't hurt each other. My child was 4. So we wrote some very clear, easy things. What would we see if we knew we were treating each other with love? And we wrote these down and we said, this is how we operate. We can't control what happens anywhere else, but we can control how we choose to show up, which meant at pickups and drop-offs, I would center myself before I got out of the car. I would take a few deep breaths. I would help my kiddo get out. We'd cross the road. I'd walk him up to the door. We'd knock. And I would smile, even though I felt uncomfortable, even though every time I had to be face to face with looking into a house of the life he was now living with the other woman. And I would smile and I would be polite. And then I would send my child off with a hug and a kiss, and then it would be done. Now on the pickups, I would come to the door and I would knock on the door and I would stand there and somebody would open the door and see it was me and just say, okay, leave the door shut or close the door in my face. That happened many times. Just telling me to stand outside, sometimes in freezing 30-degree below weather here in the Midwest. And that was how they chose to operate. And the core value of always extending love to someone else meant that I never did that on their side. Do you want to wait inside? You're invited to his birthday party. I want to fill you in on school activities that are happening. I made sure the door was always open, even when I didn't want to. Can I tell you how stressful it was the first time he brought her to one of the birthday parties? They only came once, but oh my God, did I not think I was going to make it through. My core values said love and grace and abundance, which meant she is also struggling as I am struggling. We love this little kid in the middle, and that is what's most important. In abundance, there's enough room for all of us in this equation. Those core values kept me steady when a lot of things felt very intense and very hard and very difficult. And no, I was not perfect. I'm a human having a human experience. But when I have those core beliefs printed out or on my phone or somewhere I can see, then as the day gets busy and as things go faster and faster, I don't forget. Because it's really easy to get caught up in the speed and the momentum and the hustle and lose focus on our core belief. So our core beliefs can't just be an activity we do once. It has to be a choice on how we choose to show up in life, how we choose to treat other people, whether or not they ever choose to change. And if they don't choose to change, bring in those badass boundaries. You don't have to put yourself in the room where people don't treat you the way that you want to be treated. You don't have to continue to subject yourself to core values that don't feel good to you. But you have to stop thinking that the answer is to get everybody else to change and instead work on you. So you don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to know what you stand for. And when you know what you stand for, you can use that lens to make every hard decision in your divorce. Grace, love, and abundance are what got us through writing our own divorce decree. It is what I leaned on, the abundance one especially. Every time we got into some sort of an argument on how we wanted to divide assets, because obviously money can be a very triggering piece, I had to remind myself, there's enough for everybody. There's enough. And when I did that, when I could ground myself back in the core beliefs I have, then I could show up differently. So use those journal prompts. Start with your beliefs. Find a big list online. Just Google a list of core values. Print it off. Sift and sort. Highlight for the first round. Second round, you go through the ones you highlighted, find 10. If you can get it down to 3, star 3 of them. Your job is to print that out, put that somewhere you can see, and start to evaluate your day-to-day. Are you living by these values? Apply that lens. Does this reflect how I want to be treated? Does it reflect how I want to treat others? Because when we are our best self, when we're heart-centered, when we're well-fed, well-slept, well-charged, we can treat others in that manner. Because it's no longer me versus you. And then evaluate those boundaries. There's been a couple great episodes on boundaries. Go back, check them out, understand that boundaries are not expecting other people to do things differently, but it is how we choose to operate in the world. And these couple pieces, those core values, those strong boundaries, that's how you're going to get through any unknown without losing yourself in it. Now, the other process that I used is a rhythm, right? We need a consistent rhythm because otherwise it is very easy to lose track of time. And it is very easy to feel like nothing is moving forward. When everything is in a state of change, it feels like nothing is moving forward. And that's where the wild woman comes in. So that monthly ritual, the rhythm, the container that helps you identify what am I focused on this month, and then processing through and releasing the emotions, the trauma, the triggers that are stuck in our body, defining what we want, claiming what we want, getting clear on what we want, and processing out what's in the way. So if you want help on doing this work, please reach out. Head over to thecrazyexwivesclub.com. You can find more information about the Wild Woman under support. You can also find the link down below in the show notes. Until next time, I want to know, what are those 10 values, the big, bold, beautiful values? And if you can get to your 3 core values, send me a message, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know, what are those 3 core values? And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.